An underrated hero, Elongated Man debuted in 1960 in the comic The Flash number 112. Created by the duo of John Broome and Carmine Infantino, he represents a hero who isn't necessarily born out of tragedy and pain, but rather a fascination and desire to be well-known. Well recognized for his role in the Identity Crisis saga, today we dive deep into the life of Ralph Dibny, aka the Elongated Man. So buckle up as we step into another exploration from Marvelous Videos. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is Elongated Man, and how did Ralph Dibny gain his powers? As a young boy growing up in the sleepy town of Waymore, Nebraska, Ralph always felt out of place. The tight-knit, close community of this idyllic town did not fit his larger-than-life dreams. He was always a flamboyant character, playing pranks on his friends and acting loud and pompous to seek recognition to the point of being a show-off. Ralph wanted to move out to the big cities to make a name for himself and be famous. Something that particularly caught his eye was the India Rubbermen, the carnival show contortionists who could twist and turn their bodies and get a roar out of the crowds. This fascination led him to discover a popular drink named Gingold among these performers. It was said that this drink, although allergic to most people, was the secret behind the marvels he saw the Rubbermen achieve. He was hooked. The drink was made from a special fruit called Gingold, which grew in the Yucatan Peninsula. Once Ralph knew this, it was on. He traveled to the Yucatan and found a way to extract the essence of the fruit in a concentrated form. He tested it on himself, and voila! He could stretch, contort, and shape his body at will. He created a costume for himself, moved to Central City, and thus was born the Elongated Man. He met Barry Allen, aka The Flash, and developed a deep friendship. When he was not busy performing and touring the country, he was honing his detective skills and moonlighting as a superhero. During one of his performances, he met the love of his life, Sue Dearborn, and married her later. The Gingold extract continued to be part of his diet as he developed as a detective along with his wife, solving mysteries and helping people wherever they went. What were Ralph Dibny's adventures with the Justice League? Ralph was part of the Justice League during its initial years. This time is considered the golden age for the Justice League, also known as the satellite years due to the Earth orbiting station, the headquarters at the time. In a group filled with individuals with godlike powers, Ralph was every man's hero. He was often the comic relief and added lightheartedness to the League. During this tenure, Sue Dibny, now his wife, gifted him the new red and black costume on his birthday. Often in Batman's shadow, Ralph distinguished himself as a keen detective, playing key roles in multiple storylines such as Crisis on Infinite Earths, Secret Society of Supervillains, and Seven Soldiers of Victory. His ability to get into tight spaces and surpass traps by reshaping his body proved exceptionally useful in critical moments. During the Justice League Detroit years, when Aquaman reorganized the League, only allowing members who could commit full time to the mission, Ralph enthusiastically answered the call. This occurred on the heels of the defeat and dissolution of the original Justice League in Justice League of America Annual No. 2 from 1984. In the newly formed league, which operated from a repurposed factory in Detroit, Ralph and Sue Dibny took on a senior role, guiding the new members through various arcs, including Despero's return and the death of Steel. The league was ultimately disbanded due to multiple failures and the death of Steel and Vibe, a not-so-popular chapter in the Justice League canon, following which Ralph and Sue stepped away from superheroics for a while. How did Sue Dibny's death impact Ralph's life? One of the most mature storylines in Justice League history is Identity Crisis, written by Brad Meltzer. Sue Dibny is killed, and her body is burned beyond recognition in their home. Shocked and horrified, Ralph goes out to look for Dr. Light. Due to a previous event where Dr. Light had attacked and raped Sue, he was the culprit in Ralph's mind, following which the League has altered his mind to make him less threatening and also mind-wipe Batman, who didn't agree with the solution. Ralph was unaware of these proceedings and hence went after Light. Later, it was revealed that Sue was killed by the ex-wife of Adam, Jean Loring. Separated from him, Jean psychopathically believed that such a personal threat to the League would unite all the members and eventually patch the differences between her and Ray Palmer, aka Adam. The betrayal and grief took a heavy toll on Ralph, withdrawing from not just the League, but being a superhero altogether. The depression was so severe that he stopped drinking Gingold and gave up the Elongated Man persona. What role did Ralph play in the 52 storyline? In the 52 storyline, the Cult of Connor, a shadowy organization was planning to resurrect Superboy, who had recently died. In order to test the efficacy of their ritual, they wanted to bring back Sue first. To achieve this, they defaced Sue's tombstone with Kryptonian symbols. On finding this out, Ralph went out looking for the Vandals. Upon hearing their plans, broken down by loneliness, he agreed to participate in the cult in the hope of reuniting with his wife. He also convinced 4 other heroes to join the ceremony. But as the ceremony progressed, Ralph started suspecting it was a fraud. He disrupted the ritual with the help of the heroes to shut it down. During this commotion, Sue's straw effigy caught fire and started crawling towards Ralph, calling out his name. This destroyed Ralph emotionally, as he believed he had lost the chance to bring Sue back to life. He then moved to Marseille and took on the name of Alvin Bergson to move away from all this, but was discovered by Detective Chimp, who was investigating the death of Tim Trench. He agreed to help him, which led Ralph to Egypt, where he encountered the Helmet of Naboo, an artifact connected to Dr. Fate. The helmet started whispering to him that it could fulfill his wishes if he made the right sacrifices. He went on a journey with the helmet on the afterlives of various cultures, where he was repeatedly warned about the dangers of magic. He also meets the Spectre, a divine entity of vengeance, who promises to bring Sue back if Ralph is ready to take revenge on Jean Loring, his wife's killer. But the morality in Ralph's heart was too strong to let him go ahead with this. Later, we see Ralph on the Nanda Parbat, where he meets Ramakrishna, a divine deity in the DC universe, to seek answers. Ramakrishna convinces him of the power of fate and the futility to change what has already happened. Ralph comes back to Dr. Fate's tower to complete the resurrection spell using the Helmet of Naboo. Meanwhile, Ralph discovers that the voice in the helmet is not Naboo, but rather the evil sorcerer Felix Faust, who is manipulating Ralph to sell Ralph's soul to the demon Neron to buy his freedom. Unknown to Faust, Ralph alters the spell to bind Faust and Neron within the tower. Neron discovers this and kills Ralph, but his sacrifice completes the ritual and traps Faust and Neron. Although Faust and Neron are able to escape later, towards the end of the 52, it is revealed that Ralph was able to reunite with Sue as ghosts. They continue their detective work as supernatural detectives. What was Ralph's fate in the Blackest night event? In the Blackest night event, their peaceful afterlife is disturbed when Black Hand, an old enemy of Hal Jordan, starts resurrecting the dead to include them in the Black Lantern Corps. The power of the Black Ring brings their bodies back to life with all their memories, but with the malicious intent to serve the Blackest night entity by spreading death and harvesting the hearts of the living to feed it. Due to their intimate knowledge of the League members, Sue and Ralph attack the home of Hawkman and Hawkgirl. They torment them emotionally and tear out their hearts from their bodies, and later reanimate them as Black Lanterns themselves. Later, they are defeated by the combined power of the Ring Bearers. The White Entity, the embodiment of life itself, intervenes and forms the White Lantern Corps. The Black Rings are neutralized, and their undead forms are destroyed. Their souls presumably find rest once again in the afterlife. What are Elongated Man's powers? Ralph can stretch and expand his body into various forms and shapes. This allows him to expand parts of his body, and even his entire body, to incredible length. He can also squeeze through tight spaces, or enlarge his hands for greater impact, and form barriers for protection. His body is also resistant to extreme temperatures and pressure, as his body is able to disperse forces much faster and more efficiently than a rigid body. He can also combat blunt forces, bullets, and resist severe injury due to extreme flexibility. He's also capable of disguise. Ralph can change the shape of his face to avoid being detected. He can also stretch and shape his body to blend in with other objects. Although not a superpower, he is an exceptional detective. He has even rivaled Batman at times in analytical reasoning and assessing crime scenes to gather clues to catch criminals. What are Elongated Man's weaknesses? Since the physiology of Ralph is that of an actual human, there is a limit to how far he can stretch his body. In extreme situations, he loses balance and is not able to maintain control over his body. He is not resistant to magic, which can bind and leave him incapable of using his powers. Additionally, since his powers are derived from the extract from the Gingold fruit, he must consume it on a regular basis. If he goes without the extract for extended periods of time, his powers would fade, turning him into an average human. How does Ralph Dibny's elasticity differ from Plastic Man's? Despite similar powers to stretch and modify their bodies, the main difference lies in the origin of their powers. While Ralph's powers are a result of the scientific process of extracting the gingo fruit, Plastic Man, or Patrick O'Brien's powers, are a result of an exposure to a mysterious chemical that changed his body on a molecular level. Ralph's powers can fade over time, but Patrick's abilities are irreversible. Because of this, Ralph can alter and stretch his body to a finite length and cannot form complicated shapes or structures. Plastic Man, on the other hand, has almost limitless elasticity and can stretch virtually indefinitely. Because of the physiological difference, Plastic Man can even form complex shapes such as vehicles or tools. In terms of resistance to physical harm and trauma, Plastic Man holds the upper hand. He can withstand greater blunt force and can resist extremes of temperatures. The one area where Elongated Man beats Plastic Man by a margin is his detective ability. His extremely sharp mind and analytical talent make him much more effective in critical situations. What is Gingold, and how does it maintain his powers? As mentioned before, Gingold was the drink that gave India rubbermen their elastic power. It's a product of the ginkgo fruit. Although the effect is not guaranteed and can cause side effects in humans, Ralph's body accepted its effect without any negative implications. Ralph's power needs to be regularly maintained by consuming the extract on a periodic basis. Who do you think is more powerful, Elongated Man or Plastic Man? However, a sticky situation can render any superhero powerless and would require different skill sets. Plastic Man emerges as a clear winner. His ability to change his body into any shape or form, limitless extension, and high resistance to attacks makes him more powerful than Elongated Man. In a purely physical sense, Plastic Man wins the battle by leaps and bounds. The only saving grace is Ralph's sharp mind, but overall, in a battle scenario, Plastic Man would more likely come out as a victor. Conclusion. The Elongated Man is a character that had a dream of making it big and undoubtedly achieved it. Born without superpowers and any special tools, he used his brain to not only become a superhero, but rise to the highest pedestal by joining the Justice League. He embodies every man's hero who achieves what he has set out for in his small, sleepy town. A true friend, a loving husband, and a person who, spread by his very existence, has definitely left his mark on the DC canon of superheroes. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.